but I think it was a good move. I think, well, here's what I think, and I might be wrong. Um, I think that long term it's a great move because eventually when mortgages come back, right, then we'll have the tech already ready to go. It's kind of like the S curve that he talked about in the last whatever it was conference, right? Where he talked about how we spent the last 2 years, 3 years getting our credit card offering right, and now we're ready to finally scale it. I think it's the same thing with mortgages. They're going to spend the next year or two getting it so that it's really dialed in so that they can hit the accelerator. So I think that number one. Number two, um, so I've done quite a bit of DD trying to figure out. I think that $180 million revenue is probably at the peak. I think that's in 2021. Originations, if you look at like UWMC and Rocket Mortgage and Loan Depot and just across the industry, they're down about 50 to 60% across in terms of originations, and they're not getting higher revenues per originations than they were previously. I kind of looked at a bunch of different metrics because we don't know the revenue numbers. I looked at originations and kind of book or benchmarked public companies. So those three: Rocket, United Wholesale Mortgage, and then Loan Depot. Um, the ones who get the highest, so Rocket Mortgage gets the highest in terms of valuation. So how much they like their market cap per origination, if you think of it as like a price per origination valuation, they get much higher than than any of the other two. But even if you assume that Wyndham Capital has lost about 50% of their origination, so they were at 6.5 billion originations in 2021. Um, and it's probably come down, so it's in the low 3 billions. And if you look at kind of those numbers, you're looking at something like about a $430 million acquisition if you give them the same valuation per origination as Rocket Mortgage has. So when I like looked at Kyle White's number from 500 to 1.5 billion, I just don't see it. That's me personally. Like I think that they're and I would guess their actual revenue, again, based on kind of what these other three companies get in terms of like revenue per origination. Their revenue is like at a maximum probably like 150 million, and that's being really, really generous, I think,
So I
for
don't,
2022.
just so then, in case you didn't miss, like none of us are trying to speculate on the actual revenue because I don't think we like you said, we don't know if that's peak or current or whatever. Um,
But we do know the
if you were to put a
originations, and
price
you
to
can
sales,
kind of back out a revenue number from that.
Yeah, we're just talking multiples.
yeah, what do you think on a price to sales multiple of what we
I
paid
don't
for?
think
That I think is maybe better.
so. I mean, if you look at, again, those other big originators, like again, Rocket has the best price per sales, and their price per sales is 2.2, right? So
Yeah.
even if you're paying, I can't imagine us paying more than 4. Like UWMC, their price per sales is like 1.1, and Loan Depot is 0.15. Now, Loan Depot is burning a lot of cash, right? They're distressed, and that's why they like they've got negative earnings, and they had positive earnings in 2021, but in 2022 they've lost a lot of money. But again, so Wyndham has laid off over 50% of their workforce. At some point, they had 700 plus employees, and now they've only got, according to their website, and now they've only got 350. So they're not killing it, right? Like, or otherwise they probably, the last thing that, and this guy's an owner, founder, right? The CEO is the person who founded the company back in 2001. I'm sure the people that he hires, right?
How old is he?
I don't know that answer. He had only worked in the industry for like, I don't know, it was like 5 or 10 years or less before he founded this company. So he was pretty new in the industry, and then he founded this, and they've done pretty good.
Chris, you think all cash?
I think all cash. I would be disappointed if it was dilution, or mostly cash and maybe a little bit of stock. But if it's all stock, I will dislike this deal regardless, because I think that SoFi right now is super undervalued. And why would you use stock to pay for a deal when you yourself think that your stock isn't worth what it should be? And
Yeah,
Noto obviously doesn't think the stock is worth what it should be because he's buying a bunch of it, right? I don't know why you go and spend $5 million of your own money to buy stock, and then use that same like stock valuation that you think is low to then buy a company when you've got $1.4 billion sitting in cash. And I think they've actually been pulling money out in terms of like they could be using that cash for other things, right? They could be using it to collateralize loans. But instead, they've been building up their cash reserves. My opinion on that is that they've been doing that because they are ready to acquire something. They knew that this is like they want to be able to have the flexibility to do these types of acquisitions, and they want to be able to do them in cash. I think that's why we have 1.4 billion in cash. I could be wrong. This is just my opinion.
Chris, why did we buy this company? Is it for the tech? What is the diamond in the rough that's Anthony noticed all with Wyndham Capital? What do you think?
That's a good question. I don't know. I think that the tech is forward thinking. I think that more than anything else, it's just like especially in a distressed environment, it's easy to acquire things like this. Like Ally did the same thing. When Ally was growing, they did a lot of these kind of small acquisitions and well, they weren't mergers, they were acquisitions, which this is too, right? And they acquired all these kind of small niche companies that did something really well, and then they took that and they made a bigger company out of it. I think SoFi is in the same vein, and in some ways that's kind of scary because you'd rather have organic growth rather than acquisition growth because that is more difficult. There are certain companies though that have excelled at that, right? Like Salesforce. Salesforce is an example of they've acquired a bunch of companies and every single one of them has, well, not every single one, but the vast majority of them have ended up being huge, great acquisitions for the company.
PayPal
And it
is another
seems
good name in that space as well.
Sorry?
PayPal is another great name I find for acquisition growth.
Yeah. So and again, the jury remains out on Technisys and Galileo. I think that they were probably good acquisitions. I trust management, but I think it's easier to, especially if things are at a depressed price, which I hope they are, and they should be right now. It seems like doing that makes more sense to me.
It's interesting, Chris, that you brought up the fluctuation in headcount or layoffs, I guess, put another way, because I know in the original Reddit post, Bender was speculating as to an acqui-hiring, which is essentially when a company acquires another company primarily for its talent rather than anything else. So I can't imagine it being a great morale in that place if such a large portion was let go. So probably defeats that thesis if that's the case.
A lot of it is segmented. Like they have offices in different places. Like they'll have a place in Dallas, a place in another place. So it might not affect morale as much as we think.
Can I bring up really quickly if we have to go soon? Are you trying to close up a bit or?
Yeah, we got till 11:15. I was going to share Tevis's thing real quick, and then you can say what you want to say. So this is the articles of the merger right here.
Yeah, so all I was going to say on this was that it sort of formalized this move. This was these articles were filed earlier yesterday. Now, zoom in on that signature, Amit. This was interesting to me. Chad Borton's signature is on here. He's the president.
I can tell you why that is.
Yeah, please do so.
So this was filed in North Carolina, and in North
Can
Carolina,
you explain who Chad Borton is? Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
He's the president, as opposed to Noto, who's the CEO.
So he's the president of SoFi Bank. And so the reason why though, because I looked this up because I wanted to double check it before, because I've got an article that I submitted on all this, and I wanted to make sure and go to the source and make sure this was legit. So the reason why is because this was filed in North Carolina, and in North Carolina, the active SoFi, like their business is SoFi Lending, the one that they have. That they've like registered with the Secretary of State, and the person who's in charge of SoFi Lending is Chad Borton, according to their filings. And so I think that's the reason why, is because according to North Carolina, Chad Borton is the leader of SoFi Lending Corp.
Got it. One of the main reasons I brought this up, actually, Amit, if you can just throw it back up exactly where you had it, is because on the articles of merger, that one document, it said April 3rd, 2023 is going to be the effective date of those articles, which is Monday. In other words, where my mind went was that SoFi is going to officially announce on Monday. Is everybody sort of on that same thought, or is there no correlation there?
I would think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure enough. I don't think it it's going to be too much of a big deal. Hopefully they tell us the price.
You heard it here you heard it here. Oh my God. You heard it here first, folks. SoFi Weekly got it first. Oh my God.
Actually, Chris got it first. Chris
Yeah.
was like the first guy
yeah,
to get this.
that's true.
And Bender and Vadim.
Well, yes, all those guys. Yep.
It
There was
was
someone
actually
in
kind
our-
of fun.
Yeah, there was
So,
someone
let
in
me-
our SoFi group, if you guys remember directly, and I guess his friend has a mortgage with this company, and they said, we got acquired, and it was the first email that came through or whatever, and then people thought the email was fake. I mean, who knows? A lot of DD went into actually finding out, and then people just realized that if you just try to apply it at this company, that SoFi comes up.
Yeah, they're not doing a great job of hiding it.
No.
Okay. Tanner, what did you want to say?
No, just I found it funny that whenever Chris appeared on the show, Darth Chris with a K appeared in the chat to say
like Batman and Joker,
right? And so he said it's a pivot. Prime personal loan market likely drying up. And as bad as he's actually saying that, I do actually think that it is a pivot. I do believe that in rising rates, that our personal loan market's going to do very well. In falling rates, which I guess it's speculative of how soon that's going to come up, but that the student loan market and the home loan market do very well.
Yeah,
and so
Can
I
you
think
guys see my screen real quick?
It's just them setting up the alley-oop for next year, Tanner.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. You're going to have to
Zoom in, yeah.
this is your Wyndham Capital account, right?
Yeah. So no, this is what you saw. Let's see. Can you see that better? So this
little
is
bit.
what the website was that morning. Zoom and enhance. All right.
Yeah, you're good.
It looked like this. The interesting thing is we actually saw in real time that it went to this. All of a sudden it turned SoFi blue.
Oh wow.
And if you zoom in on the bottom, but it still had the Wyndham Capital logo. And if you zoom in on the bottom, shoot, come on. Stupid thing.
you see that? You see all the way in the there you go. Yeah.
It had the Wyndham logo, but it also had this SoFi Bank link, and the NMLS changed to SoFi's. And then like 5 minutes later, it changed over to this one that had the SoFi logo.
Dude, if they're making
Wow.
if they're
To
making
keep
code
refreshing it in real
changes,
time.
if they're making code changes on the live environment like that, I'm gonna go out on a limb and question their tech right now, Riley.
Well, what?
Well,
Also, Bender
might have been
pointed
a
this out.
mistake. They probably didn't want to show it, right?
I think it was a mistake because they took down the link that the apply button is gone from their website now that linked to that page.
The SoFi community is too quick.
Yeah.
But Bender even realized, even as this transition was happening, that we recently just switched over to that. You saw it there, Blend, which is, I guess, the new tech that we're using. Which they realized that switched over. I think about a month ago or something. So this acquisition was sort of in talks, I guess, for a while now.
What is Blend if we have time?
It's a white label mortgage provider.
I thought it was Binder.
That's insurance.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
So Chris, overall, you think this was, as my camera dies, you think overall this was a good deal? It obviously depends how much we pay for it, but you are bullish on this happening. You think Noto's moving in the right direction with this.
With that caveat, yes. Like if it comes out and it's 500 million and it's stock, I will be very upset. If it's all cash and it's under 300 million, I think the over under is right around 300 million. That's what I think. And if it's under that, like, I'd feel pretty good about that.
Tanner, is 300 million in line with your expectations of, or not expectation, but like idea of we're paying these premiums, or it's way under what you think it is?
Zero idea. I think a 5 to 6 times price to sales will make sense in my head. So if they make 40 million, that sounds expensive. If they make 80 million, it'll be a great price. I think a 5 to 6 times price to sales is my bet.
Okay.
And we will figure all this out on Monday, right?
I think looking at Rocket Mortgage or one of these companies, and I'm okay to be wrong. I mean, it means that we paid a better price. I'd be happy. But looking at Rocket Mortgage or some of these companies on public markets and looking at their price to sales and thinking that's what you can acquire Rocket Mortgage for, it's not going to happen. No one can buy Rocket Mortgage for that price. You would need to buy it at such a large multiple on what it's trading for on public markets to actually acquire all stock, right? The whole board has to agree on it. A founder of a 20+ year company has to give away the ownership rights of his company. We're paying a good price for it.